right, good morning everyone. Thanks for coming out this early. My name is Florian Roessler. I'm a technical engagement lead for Unit 8 and I'll be talking to you about AI in industry from dating to marriage. First, the obvious. We are a data and AI service provider working across a variety of industries, banking and insurance, pharma, healthcare, automotive and aviation, as well as Industry 4.0. We're also a local company. One of our offices is here in Lausanne, so we're always very excited about talking at AMLD. So, excuse me. So one of the numbers you might have heard floating around in the AI and industry scene is the Gartner number that nearly 85% of AI projects don't make it into production. So if you think about it, AI projects are really a little bit like, dating, right? You never know. It's new, it's fresh, it's exciting, but there's also a lot of uncertainty with it, Will it work out? Will your parents like your partner? You never know. So that's for me a little bit like dating at the moment, doing an AI project in industry. The second number that is maybe not so well known is that 70 to 75% of IT projects are not successful. So in a way, in our analogy, one could say doing an IT project is like dating your ex-partner. Right? A little less uncertainty, but still no guarantee that it will work out. So shouldn't we try to achieve going towards a marriage, right? Across the world, marriages get divorced only 10 to 60% of the time. It's not great in some areas, but it's still better than 85% of the time. There's another thing on this slide that you might have noticed, is that 85% of AI projects don't make it into production. 70 to 75% of IT projects are not successful. So there's a distinct difference between not being successful but still making it into production, while not making it into production at all. So even though you might say it's like 10, 15%, it's even actually more because not making it into production is much worse. So let's unpack that a little bit by asking the question, what do AI projects and relationships have in common? So life is ever changing, and if we say that data collected about life is maybe hopefully a close approximation of what's going on, then data is ever changing, which means we constantly have to be aware of what is going on around us. Is there a new machine that produces the data? Is there a new stakeholder involved, right? So it's always changing, as is a relationship. Communication is hard. In AI projects, you have so many stakeholders that even communicating within your team is sometimes a struggle, right? And then communication beyond that can be much harder, even so. So communication is hard as well. And then it takes a lot of work. Some people might say it's obvious. Hey, we ML guys, we're smart, we work hard. But I think what a lot of people are missing is that it's sometimes the mundane and day-to-day work that is much harder. Is doing the documentation right, is communication with your stakeholders, is doing the testing so that you can really be sure of what you produce is useful. So that takes a lot of work too, beyond just doing the ML project. So when looking at that, let's go into a case study to exemplify some of these things. So we did a project some time ago with a global pharma company around production line optimization. The problem that they had was that they were running out of production capacity, and their goal was to increase the production capacity by 5% using advanced analytics. To spoil the fun a little bit, here are some of the solutions that we implemented with them. So we did an overall process optimization using a purely analytical approach. We did drying time optimization using simulation. And we did settings prediction for the tableting press using a machine learning model. The business benefits were substantial. 10% increase of production capacity and a 15 times return on investment. So on the numbers, it looked fantastic. A little bit about what does such a production line look like. So we have the raw materials at the top being inserted in this mixer-dryer combination, right, where they get dried to a powder while constantly being mixed. Then they further go down into a conical mixer where the powder gets further mixed together. ending up in the tableting press down here, where they're pressed into tablets before being coated, and then stored in batches, as well as then put into a packaging line. A little bit about a production line like this is it works as a batch process. It works 24/7, 365 days a year. It's usually operated in 5 shifts and has one maintenance window. This particular production line has been going on for 20 years, including renewal, modernization, and optimization efforts. So, as any relationship, also it turned out that this pipeline had some baggage, right? So we came in obviously saying, hey, we have some cool stuff, there's some Python, some PyTorch, AWS, Azure, some deep learning, reinforcement learning, digital twin, all the nice buzzwords that you need, right? And then as the conversation continued, we found out there was already a project that did some of that before, and another one, right? There was even an R project back in the days, and of course, you can never miss a good Excel optimization, right? So it's fair to say that this pipeline had some baggage. So instead of like diving right in, what we did is sat down together with our stakeholders, the people who were working on the shop floor, and came up with 50 plus lever ideas of how we could improve this production line. From organizational improvements, predictive maintenance, tool improvement, upskilling, optimization, automation, everything was there. At the same time as we came up with these ideas, we built this digital twin to go into the second phase, which was look at the lever ideas that we could quantify. So 27 of those we were able to quantify. Of these 27, we then picked 15 to go into deep dive sessions. So we sat down with the expert from our side, their side, as well as the people operating the production line, and really looked into these 15 deep dive sessions and ended up implementing 7. So we really condensed down the ideas before applying all the fancy machine learning that we always want to do. So I'll give an example of one of the things that we implemented. So this was optimizing the setup of the tableting press. You remember the powder comes into the tableting press, and then for each batch you need to set initial parameters, then run the press for some time, check the tablets, and see if they are qualitative good enough. And what you do then is you redo the cycle until it works out, and then you run this batch through the tableting press. The result of that is that on average there are multiple adjustment cycles which lead to a loss of tablets in time. So this is a perfect example on where we could throw on some black box machine learning. You have the ingredients data, you have the mixing data, you have the age of the equipment, a lot of other meta information, right? Since this production line has been running for 20 years and for some of these years data was collected, right? You actually have a rich volume of data that you can use. So we ended up trying a bunch of different models. If I remember it correctly, I think it was an autoregressive model that we ended up with some linear parameters such as the age of the equipment. And what this model does is it does an initial prediction of the parameters, and then we run through the kind of initial cycle of pressing the tablets and checking the quality. And the result of using this kind of machine learning approach was that in the majority of cases, the first guess of parameters was good enough to run the whole batch with them. So we ended up until today saving millions of tablets by using a machine learning in a setup like that. So as I showed you at the beginning, this was not only a success in terms of the numbers, right? But it was, with the approach that we take, also a success in terms of communication and the relationship between the data team and the client, like not only stakeholders, but also people on the ground. So I want to kind of wrap it up a little bit with saying that data teams can be great catalysts for good relationships within your company. And there are a couple of points that I want to make here. So for a lead data scientist, you should be prioritizing communication, especially to focus the business attention and unlock investments. If you lose the attention of the business because you don't update them, you will maybe overrun the budget and they will be like, we didn't see anything yet, no more further investment and the project dies. So it's really important that you continue grabbing their attention. You need to establish good collaboration with your IT department, right? Because you really need that support later on to put everything into production. And further on, to maintain frequent and direct contact with your users, which is really important because if your users think what you've produced has no value, nobody else will use it and it will die a slow death. And then also there's some recommendations for the individual contributor among us. We need to work hard, which is obvious to a degree, but it's not only working hard on producing the best machine learning model that we can, or analytics that we can put together, but also to educate the people across our organization, right, on the new way of thinking, because it's really not like something that they've been thinking about for a long time, right? So bringing in that new way of thinking is really essential in helping people to understand that. Providing easy access to our insights. We might like fancy plots that have a lot of content, but other people might not understand them because they've never counted them, and we should help them provide easy access to our insights. And of course, looking beyond our technical realm. I've seen way too much projects where data scientists were like, okay, thank you for the data, I'm going to go and hide away for the next 6 months and produce some nice machine learning model, and then I'll go back and you better appreciate that. So really like looking beyond our technical realm and engaging with the business is an essential thing we should work hard on. Last but not least, I think make sure you have fun and build great relationships. It's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much. We're Unit 8 at Booth 8. Come visit us.